Hello, and welcome to the Thrive Mindset Podcast. I am so glad you are here with me. My name is Carrie Dale, and I am your host. I am an entrepreneur, author, podcaster, manifester, and motivator. And I am on a mission to empower you to create the life of your dreams. If you are looking to up-level your life, relationships, finances, productivity, and success, you have come to the right place. I will share with you tools, resources, strategies, my failures, and my successes that have all helped me achieve the life of my dreams. It is my goal with this podcast to help you see your potential and empower you to create the life of your dreams. So let's get to it. Well, welcome back to the Thrive Mindset Podcast. I'm Carrie Dale, your host, and today I'm incredibly excited because I have Timothy Stuetz, who used to be CPA and turned to traveling the world as a master teacher of the ancient arts and is devoted to you and your children achieving your dreams and full potential. He's the founder of Transformations and a best-selling author. Welcome, Timothy.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. Wonderful to be with you and everybody listening.
Oh, good. I really love a story, and clearly you're an author. So I would imagine stories are part of your life. So could you share your story?
Wow, where do we pick up?
Wherever you want.
Quick story is I went to military school, was raised in a loving dysfunctional family, and graduated from college and went right to work as with an international certified public accounting firm. And then went out on my own and did some consulting work in the accounting and mortgage banking industry and did my own seminars across the country. And going to the last seminar that I had put on, I just felt deep down inside of me that was it. I wasn't going to do anymore. And I had no idea what that meant for me. And
was it,
I woke up.
I'm sorry. Ahead. I didn't mean to, was it just this feeling of lack of satisfaction or?
No, I mean, I was having fun. I mean, I was doing what I love to do, doing presentations around the United States, teaching people about mortgage banking and auditing. And yeah, I was having a blast. But it just felt like I was done and I had no idea what that was. And not too long after that, I woke up one morning and the first words out of my mouth to my partner were, if Hershey's can make chocolate kisses, I can make chocolate French kisses. I have no idea where that came from, but I knew it was coming from inside of me, to wake up and that just first thing out of the mouth. So I set out to have a pair of chocolate lips with a tongue curled out designed, and found somebody to make a real pretty package and found a company to make these for me. And my idea was just to sell them because I thought it was a great idea, kind of like a pet rock thing.
Okay.
For people who remember what pet rock was. And then the company that agreed to produce these for me felt like it might really take off, so they tripled the price they were going to charge me.
Oh.
And that forced me to basically open up my own chocolate shop, and I found a couple that taught me how to make and dip chocolate, which I had no idea what went into that. And this was all new. I was just going step by step, following the message that I heard. Opened up a chocolate shop and started making chocolates and selling them. And I was using really good chocolate, and I didn't know that most chocolate on the market has a lot of wax in it, which keeps it from melting during shipping. The chocolate I was buying didn't have a lot of wax, so consequently I either had to ship dry ice or only in winter months, which I had no idea about. I learn as I go, and sometimes it's very expensive.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a costly project there.
Yeah, but it was in that chocolate shop that I received a box from UPS one day, and I didn't order it, and the driver wouldn't take it back because it had my address on it. So I opened it up, and there were 50 little teddy bears staring at me. And being a certified public accountant and loving to investigate things and loving Hardy Boy mysteries when I was a child and wanting to get to the bottom of things, I found the owners of that box, and it had been smuggled into the United States by one of their representatives who wanted to sell it on his own. He just got the wrong address
Oh,
somehow on the label.
and just teddy bears, or was there something in the teddy bears?
No, just little teddy bears. They had teddy bears that they were selling, and this was just a box that he shipped in to sell on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so thankful that I revealed all this to them that they gave me the box of teddy bears. And I carried one in my car riding shotgun. And after about 2 weeks, I picked it up at a stoplight one day and I asked it, "Who are you?" And I actually was surprised when I heard Poet Bear come back at me. And writing philosophical poetry and love poetry, it made sense to me. So I decided to package all of my poetry in a little book, put the teddy bear with some a heartmobile on the front cover, and then put the teddy bear inside a box with the book. And I was the very first one that started that. About 2 years after that, the major toy companies started selling stuffed animals and books together. But I got it all together, put it on the counter to sell in the candy shop, and my mom took one look at it and said, "You blew it, man. That should have been a children's story." And I said, "I don't write. There's nothing in there for kids, about kids, and that's not what I do, Mom." My mom knew me really well, and she must have planted a seed, because 6 months later, I got the first idea for a story that just came in almost complete. Poet Bear transformed into Blissberry Bear. And the stories have never stopped. So I'm now on number 169. Yeah, that's more children's fairy tales than anybody that we know on Earth has ever written.
Wow.
And yeah, it's more than Hans Christian Andersen. I think he wrote 158.
That's amazing. And you still
I never
have more in
intended
you.
to do that. Huh?
I said, and you still probably have more in you.
I do have more in me. And in fact, somebody saw a Facebook post of mine with one of the stories the other day and said, "Oh, I've always wanted to." She developed this koala bear. And she said, "I always wanted to bring this koala bear to life. Would you write a story for me using the koala bear?" So I didn't even have to go looking for that one. It's like, she's going to describe what the bear's like, and I'll sit with it. And my mind is so quiet. I just get ideas that pop in. I have no idea what that story will be about, but I know that I will get the information at some point in time. I wanted to write a story about virtues and had it on the drawing board for like 2 years, just a small outline on virtues, but never got the idea. And then I met a lady who every Christmas, for the 12 days of Christmas, she gave her nephew a book. And then on the 12th day, he got a big bonanza of books. And when she told me that, I thought this was really cool. And I was meditating one morning before Christmas a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden the idea came in to use that story, use the virtues with it. And it turned out to be on the 13th day of Christmas. When I got up out of meditation, I wrote it within 2 hours, sent the graphics off to my graphic artist, who usually takes weeks or months to get me something back. He turned it around right away, which was very magical. So I had a new story for Christmas that year.
So you've obviously been writing a long time and you've had all these stories just come to you, but how does that transcend into your transformations?
I think the transformations transcend into the story. So okay. Like writing stories, I've never gone looking for anything. Okay. I never went looking for a meditation path. My life as I knew it fell apart one morning, and I ended up crying in bed for 3 days. I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I just laid there and cried because my whole life had fallen apart in my early 30s. And at the end of 3 days, I just yelled out to God, if you exist, I need to find you. My mother taught me now I lay me down to sleep when I was little. I've said that every night since then. If you exist, I really want to find you. And shortly after that, I just had the inspiration to get out of bed, and looking at a very skinny body after 3 days of no food and water in the mirror, I felt Christ behind me saying, I will remake your body in my image. And that started me the year before. I was auditing a company in Hawaii, and the president of the company, right before I left, she whispered in my ear, if you ever need a place to crash, I've got a couch. And I needed a place to crash to kind of get my head together. So I called her up and she said, hey, better yet, I bought a house. You get your own bedroom. And I went to Hawaii within 2 weeks. And she gave me a book when I arrived that night and said, I'm going to work tomorrow, read this book. And it was Dick Sutphen's Past Lives, Future Loves. I never knew anything about past lives, nothing. I just picked up that book and started reading in the backyard, and basically started crying right away because things that my daughter had tried to show me just suddenly popped. And I knew that this was something I needed to follow. So that's literally how I got led into meditation, which is a whole nother story in and of itself from that point on. But that got me on a meditation path. And meditation led to, after about 2 years of meditation, I found my body starting to die. And no doctors could figure out what was going on. And I knew I needed some sort of body work. Never had a massage in my life at that time. Started looking for a massage therapist, and I couldn't get a massage for nothing. I finally got one man to book an appointment for me. I arrived at his house 10 minutes early, which I like to do. It's like I like to arrive places 10 minutes early, sit in my car, and just chill and meditate so that I don't have to rush. And as I was sitting there, I watched a young lady walk up to his door, knock on the door, be let in. And he double booked me with somebody else. And since she got there first, he took her. But it was okay. I told the story to some guys I had breakfast with every Thursday morning. And one of the gentlemen said his wife took a Reiki class over the weekend. And I asked him what it was. He said, I don't know, but it feels good. And she happened to be my yoga teacher. So I called her up, and she gave me 4 treatments over a period of a week.
Mm-hmm.
And the first treatment, I felt so good, so divine, and so peaceful, more peaceful than I'd ever felt in meditation. And I came out of that treatment saying, I want to die like this. I just felt so content. And I've been fortunate enough to hold maybe a dozen people as they've passed. That's how I discovered Reiki and trained to be a Reiki master. And in my training to be a Reiki master, I did an experiment with ecstasy, because at that time it was legal, and Phyllis's husband was doing his Gestalt work and getting his PhD. And so he wanted to basically use me as an experiment and go through the whole process with me, and shared with me that using ecstasy in the right way, people would work through like 20, 30, 40 years of stuff in an hour.
Wow.
And I ended up with a 9-hour experience that was just phenomenal, putting my body in yoga positions that I've never put it in before, never even seen before. At one point, feeling every part of my body, part by part, little toe, next toe, little toe, just experiencing my whole body like that.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I started to do some spontaneous Tai Chi. And was literally heard a message, take Tai Chi. And I ignored it. And 3 months later, I found my legs ballooning up to where I could barely walk when I was at a retreat. And suddenly movement became very important to me. So when I got back home, I picked up a magazine out of the health food store, looked up a Tai Chi teacher, and started taking Tai Chi. I was already taking yoga. So that's kind of like how I get led from one thing to another.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So, yeah, and to answer your question, everything that I've learned teaching and working with thousands of people gets woven into the children's stories. So they really contain all the wisdom. And I blend, for instance, I wanted to write a story about Patience the Impatient Panda. And I started to write the story, and suddenly it evolved into this novel. But I go through the life of a panda in a very fun way for children. So they learn about pandas. And then they follow the birth of this panda whose mom teaches them chanting and qigong exercises and interweaves that in his training.
Mm-hmm.
So I weave it kind of all together so that some of the exercises teach children how to handle anger,
Mm-hmm.
which is good for anyone. I mean, anger is one of the most powerful energies. In fact, the Spanda Karikas, an Indian text, says that anger is one of the closest energies to God there is.
Really?
Because we have all this. Huh?
I said, really, why is that?
It's because we are literally full of energy. Okay. I mean, we are. Yeah. And usually we take that energy and lash out at ourselves or somebody else or something else.
Mm-hmm.
But combining that knowledge with the awareness that, like in Tai Chi or in meditation, we pull energy up our spine sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do a flow up the spine and around to the top of the head and create a circle.
Mm-hmm.
So combining those two things together, I experimented with when I would get angry. I would literally focus all that energy at my tailbone, pull it up my spine, up to the top of my head. And what I discovered was the power of that anger coming up my spine, which the subtle body spine is called the Sushumna Nadi, which holds all of our past impressions in it. So when you're breathing all that anger up your spine, up the Sushumna, it literally purges the source of the anger. So whatever causes us to get anger, there's usually something else way deeper behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the trigger that makes us get angry. And so if you do that, listen closely, people. When you get angry, focus your attention at the base of your spine. Inhale all that anger up to the top of your head a few times, and you will literally not only clear out the anger and feel wonderful afterwards, you'll have cleared out the source of the anger.
Wow. I'll have to try that for sure.
It works.
I'm going to test you. I'm curious. I am curious though, because one of the things you say in your transformations is that you really want to help people achieve their dreams and full potential. And that is one of the things that's on my heart. That is what the whole Thrive mindset is. It's teaching people to thrive in this world and create the life of their dreams. So how does all of that work towards achieving your dreams?
Well, it's been known for a long time from sages and actual psychological studies and other studies that children start to imprint to the outside world about the fifth month in the womb. Mm-hmm. So they start to imprint to the mom's voice. Mm-hmm. And so Einstein said, if you want your children to be brilliant, tell them fairy tales. If you want them to be more brilliant, tell them more fairy tales. And if you start reading fairy tales to your children while they're in the womb, you start that process. Or if you want your child to be a great musician, if you want them to be in a rock band, you start listening to rock music. So you can start preparing your child for their own success by the information you give them while they're in the womb. that can continue into the early years of just reading stories to your child, because all of most of 99% of my children's stories have a beautiful cover picture, but there's no illustrations inside.
Oh.
That's because I don't want the children to be focused on some adult's interpretation of what's happening on a page. Because when a child listens to a story, they create images in their own mind. And that inner creation of images, that creativity, that imagination is literally the basis of success for the rest of their life. It puts everything together. Like my daughter, she liked to have stories read to her over and over and over again, and they were usually the stories that I didn't like to read to her. But I trusted that she was wanting that for some reason. And then when I started writing stories and learning more about what I was actually doing, new neural networks are being formed every time that story's repeated. So that's why children ask for stories to be repeated over and over, because they have this internal knowing that it's rewiring something inside of themselves. And it's like fairy tales are good for all ages. And then, I also created something called the Power Animal Frolics, which the Animal Frolics is the oldest exercise known to man, movements. It was originated about 100 AD by a Chinese doctor who watched animals and put together a series of movements, and he found teaching these movements to people, it would cure their illnesses. And that was about 400 years before Tai Chi or yoga were ever even thought of. And since Blissberry Bear was my main character, and I had a full-grown Disney-like costume made by the man who made Disney's costumes originally. I mean, I found him right when he was about to retire. He agreed to make my costume for me. And since a bear is one of the animal frolics, and since he had a deer, which is another animal frolics, hanging on the back of his door, and I asked him if I could borrow it, he said, no, you can buy it. So literally, I had 7 costumes made, Disney quality, where I get in and imitate animals in Qigong and yoga movements for kids. That is, movement is one of the best things in the world for young kids, like 6 to 12. The secret of martial arts, the secret of Tai Chi, the secret of Qigong, the secret of yoga is to focus below your navel when you're doing movements. And that's the power center of our body. So when children do that, they're learning to focus. They start to feel their own power. They feel their own balance. They realize, like one little boy said, when I don't know an answer for a test, I just sit there, put my hands on my belly, take a few deep breaths, and I know the answer. Because everything is within us. So you might temporarily forget it, but if you've studied it, it's in there to be accessed. So while young children, I feel, really benefit from fairy tales, by the time they're 6 to 12, they don't want to listen to fairy tales. But if you can move them into a martial art or something like that, where it facilitates their focus and also their concentration, that will help them. And then in the teenage years, what I've done is I've developed a academy for teenagers where I will teach them everything I know, because I'm 73 now and I want to leave everything I know to somebody who will continue teaching the rest of their life. So I have an academy for adults, but I've just created one for teenagers where I will train them in everything I know. So not only by the time they're 18, they will have cleared out any problem they have psychologically, emotionally, mentally. They'll be able to go out into the world and have a way to teach meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, energy practices. And the other thing with teenagers is Joseph Chilton Pearce, who was one of the foremost experts on human development, said that when we're in our teens, starting about age 15 to 19, We are hardwired to find a spiritual teacher. And they knew that in India ages ago. The parents would give their children over to a spiritual teacher for the spiritual development. Well, that's been lost. That's not taught in the United States. And that's one of the main components of child development. And, at each stage of life, pre-birth, right after birth, 2 to 4, 4 to 7, 7 to 10, there are certain things we're capable of learning. And if we don't learn those, it's like a brick has been left out of a foundation. And so we're not as strong and can't be as successful moving on because we haven't gotten something. So what most teenagers haven't received is the fact that they're a spiritual being and to learn how to tap into that. So what do? We all go looking for what we know we're supposed to feel inside. We know we're supposed to feel vibrant and ecstatic and full of inspiration, but we don't know where to find it. Nobody teaches us to find it inside. So we go looking for friends, drugs, you name it. And then that continues into our adult life. So many people are missing the spiritual component. Like I can tell you, I was sitting in a drive-in movie theater at age 19. And all of a sudden I knew, and I was engaged, and I knew I was not supposed to get married. Something just came up and said, no, there's another path. But I didn't know what that path was. So I followed the path that I was on, and it took me another 12 years to find a spiritual path, and that found me. I was talking on a podcast with a man the other day, and he said, I knew it. I got that at 17. I can tell you exactly where I was when I felt that. So I think we all get that feeling and knowing, we just don't know what to do with it. And that's part of, just being successful in life. We get these feelings and we need to trust them.
Absolutely.
And that way we can succeed. And follow, you hear people say, follow your heart. Well, what does that really mean? In the Indian scriptures, the heart, the different chakras are represented by lotus blossoms. And the heart is the only one that has lotus blossoms facing downwards and upwards. So there's petals facing the lower 3 chakras and petals facing the upper 3 chakras. So you can follow the lower 3 chakras in your heart, the petals facing downward, you're not going to get very far. We need to focus on the ones facing upwards. But our heart, science has proven that our heart has about 40,000 brain cells in it. They're literally brain cells. So when we tune into our heart, to the little brain in our heart will never lead us astray. It will always give us the right answer. And we can ask it anything. So what I teach people is just, bring your hands to your heart, close your eyes, breathe, get calm, and then ask your heart a question that you know is a yes. So, and I start with no's actually. So I'll just say, pick somebody's name other than your own and say, dear heart, is my name Jack? And you're going to get a no. And then it's up to you to tune into how you're getting that no. Are you hearing the word no? Is your body moving backwards? Do you just feel empty? What is your no? Because we all sense things in a different way. And then after you get your no, and you can test it out, pick the worst food that you hate. It's like, dear heart, do I like such and such? You'll get a no. And then you ask questions that you get a yes. Dear heart, is my name Carrie? And you'll get a different feeling. So you can use that to make any business decision, any decision regarding relationships, everything. Your heart will not lead you astray. Where the mind and the brain are polarity. The brain's a polarity organ. left, right, yes, no, weighing all the things. Where the heart, you just go to and it'll give you the answer. It's simple. And then you follow it, and it doesn't always lead you directly to where you're going to go, but it will get you there. Just like when I opened up a chocolate shop because I wanted to make French kisses, it eventually led me to writing more children's stories than anybody ever, which I never planned to do.
Right? You put it out into the universe, and the universe or God or whomever you believe brought it back to you, and brought it back to you in a way that was palpable and different than you ever expected. So
Exactly. Could have never imagined it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I do believe that. I believe that the universe gives you all these opportunities, and when you're clear on what you want and what you love, then it is able to match that energy and bring that to you in abundance.
Yes, especially when you just feed it all the love and positive vibrations that you can feed it. It's like you get this hit, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do this. So I'm going to put all of my energy and all of my effort into this.
For sure.
We are amazing beings. We have the capability of feeling all the energy of the universe vibrating in our cells. That's what we're supposed to feel. It's like we're literally supposed to feel like we're in an orgasmic state all of the time without doing anything. That's what these bodies are designed to feel. But we've deadened them down and haven't been taught who we are and how to bring that through, and then use it to whatever our talent is in the world or whatever we do to succeed.
How do you reconcile all the different modalities and religions and parts of your life? Because I feel like you shared in the beginning that you called out to God, so more of a traditional religion. But then all of these other things and the way you speak, you talked about past lives. I mean, just the different things, those aren't traditional, at least here in the United States. It's not traditional religion. And I love that you've done it, but I'm just curious how you've reconciled it.
When my daughter was about 4 years old, I went to sit on a swing next to her. And she said, "Daddy, you can't sit there. My angel's there." And that triggered memories in me. That was when I was in military school, 5 years old, and singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot and practicing it in the choir. I would literally see angels. I would see chariots coming down. And that reminded me. I've been taken on a path that has shown me my own personal belief and experience is there's one God and many paths to get there. And many great beings walking the earth throughout all of history and today are available to us that can take us there and show us how to get there quickly. And they're not in religious, they're not in religions. And it's like I said, when I got up out of crying out of bed, literally my relationship to God when I was a child was, now I lay me down to sleep, and going to church on holiday Sundays with my grandmother. And I remember walking out of church one time just as a little boy and looking at my grandmother and saying, none of these people really believe in God. They go to church on Sunday and then leave it until they come back the next Sunday. It's like something, I just said that, I felt that. And then standing there and Christ behind me saying that, I never really had a direct relationship with Christ. So then I read the Bible many times. And then finding meditation, that was through an Eastern path from India. And it's said in the Indian tradition and text that when you have a desire to find God, God leads you to a guru who leads you back to yourself to show that you are God. Just a perfect representation of God here. And teaching Reiki for so many years to so many people of different religious faiths, different spiritual paths, I would experience what they felt for whoever their teacher was, I would experience their energy. Or when I was doing Reiki, one time I just wanted to know what compassion felt like. So while I was treating somebody, I just prayed for Mother Mary to come into me and teach me compassion so I could feel it in every pore of my being. And she did. I was initiating another lady who had a spiritual teacher who I thought was bonkers. I won't get into names or anything, okay? I just thought, no, this guy's not real. And yet, when I was initiating her, he came through with so much unconditional love. And I just felt his love for her, which totally switched my idea and concepts about him, because I knew that nobody could get through the field that I was setting up that wasn't of pure love. So I guess what I've learned is, just like there's many rivers that dump in the same ocean, there's many paths that lead to God. And if people really want to experience their God self and have that desire, they will be led to the right place. And sometimes we're led to people who are close to that, but lead us astray in one way or another. It's something you have to be very discerning about, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story about that. You actually gave me goosebumps talking about your daughter and the angels. That's just that's another belief I have. I believe that we have angels around us and guides around us, and when you ask for it, they show up more, but they're there anyways. And so to hear you share that about your daughter specifically, because I think children see, I guess, the magic in the world that many of us have closed off.
They do. And even when she was born, that started my awakening, because when they separated her from her mom and put her on a table across the room, what I saw was this beautiful golden, orange, red energy coming up out of her body and going through the ceiling. And I'm sitting there and I literally said to myself, something bigger than the birth of my daughter's taking place, and I have no idea what it is. When she was 2, I had a backache that I'd had for a long time. And she passed me in the hallway one day, stuck a finger in the point where it hurt the most, and the pain disappeared and never came back.
Wow.
So she's found different ways of teaching me without teaching me, and getting me to question things. Like sitting in the back seat of a car when she's 2 years old and starting to describe where we're going. And I'm sitting there driving saying, she's never been there before. This is not possible. And so I just literally started to run myself back and came to the awareness that the only time she had been there was when she was in the womb. So that got me thinking, when are we conscious? When do we have awareness? When are we actually seeing what's outside when we're inside? So she has found many marvelous little ways like that to wake me up all the way through.
Wow. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I was going to ask you what inspires you, but I feel like there's so many things that do inspire you, but is there one specific thing that really just sets you on fire and excites you in life?
Writing children's stories.
Yeah.
Actually, it's like when I started taking Tai Chi, I love Tai Chi so much. And I learned like 9, 10, 11 different Tai Chi practices. And then to learn them, you've got to practice them. You can't practice them all. You can't practice thousands and thousands. So, but yeah, if I was locked in a jail cell or something and said you can only do one thing, it would be to write. I mean, just for some reason, it brings me a lot of joy. But my joy right now, my bliss, is literally, my mind's quiet. It only thinks when I want it to think. And that power center below our navel, it's also full of laughter. So I can burst into laughter for 6 hours at a time just by focusing there. And I'm just in awe of God's creation in every moment. It's like I see the world as a field of beautiful white light, and you and I are superimposed on that field of white light. So that's my inspiration. It's all beautiful. It's all wonderful. It's this marvelous creation that a lot of it has gone awry, so to say. um, and yeah, just to stay in my own joy.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Sometimes it's hard, but it gets easier and easier. There's moments, there's fleeting moments. So if I get down, it may be for an hour at the most. And then all I got to do is go outside and snap out of it. Focus down below my navel, snap out of it. Rather than get caught in it for days, weeks, months. So the idea is to just keep ourselves, learn the practices to calm ourselves, center ourselves, and keep moving forward. And like you say, what would you do? What brings you inspiration? What's your joy? Find your joy in life and do it.
For sure.
If you love singing, sing a little bit every day. Dance a little bit every day. Get out in nature. Do something to break. Oh my God, I got to go to work. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And make work your love, no matter what you have to do to change it. Make that your love.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of life. If everybody could do that, wouldn't the world be a different place? So.
Oh, yes. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do over and over. Let me be in charge of the world for one day. Okay. one day, and we would start a real reset. It's like there would be, okay, folks, please continue going to your job, even if you don't love it. So we keep the machine working. But no more money is required. You can have anything and everything. You don't have to steal anymore. Everything's available to you. We'll just keep this machine working. Everybody will find out what they love to do. And we'll sing and we'll dance every day. And you don't have to worry about making a living. You don't have to worry about having a roof over your head, because there's plenty of materials out there to build houses. You don't have to worry about food. You don't have to worry about water, because that's all available too. And we just reset that way. It might be bumpy for a while, but not as bumpy as the current ride.
Maybe that's your next story.
Not as bumpy as the current ride.
Yeah.
Maybe that little koala bear that lady wants me to write a story about will be in there somewhere.
That'd be great. You'll have to tell me if it does. So we've talked a lot about many different things. Is there anything that we haven't chatted about today that you feel is still on your heart to share?
I just share with everybody to stay focused and literally take control of your mind. Don't let your mind control you. As I was waking up one morning and get the message to make chocolate French kisses, I was waking up one morning in that space between, you're asleep, but you're not quite awake yet. And I literally watched my mind plan out my entire day. And I'm saying, what is this? I'm not even up yet. How can my mind be planning my entire day? And so that really got me to start taking control of my mind and not letting it think about what it wanted to think about. I would challenge my mind. Every thought it had, I'd say, how do you know? What are you basing that on? And with the Tai Chi and the yoga and learning to focus my mind below the navel, if we just focus our mind below the navel, if we focus it on what we're doing, for instance, when I get up out of this chair, I'm not going to think about what just happened with you on this call. I'm not even going to think about where I'm going. I'm going to focus on the soles of my feet hitting the ground and just experience every step. And we can do that no matter what we're doing. when we're eating, we can experience what it's like to chew and taste the food instead of doing a dozen things while we're eating. If we're doing dishes or combing our hair, we can literally get 100% into doing that and not thinking about what we're going to do next. Because just like the stories flow into me, I get an idea, I sit down, I don't even know how it's going to come out. I'm amazed at every story I've written. I go back and look at them and said, who wrote that? It's like, how did that happen? So we can literally go through life like that. We don't have to think about anything. We can be so in harmony with the universal flow, we know what to do next. Mm. So by practicing simple things like focusing on the soles of your feet, focusing on your breath, taking control of your mind, you're opening yourself up to where the universe wants to flow you. And then you use your mind and all your energy and your power to flow in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God, your mind is such a powerful thing. And it's amazing when you can control it and be mindful. Yeah, that's such a great thing to leave everybody with. Well, Timothy, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I know this was you staying up probably later than you want to, and
no, it's like my life since I've moved to Spain has changed drastically. Before I moved to Spain, I think there was a dozen times in my life that I was up after midnight. Mm-hmm. Usually in bed by 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Since I've been in Spain, there's maybe a dozen times I've been to bed before midnight.
Yep. European life is definitely not like life in the States. My husband.
So I'm still trying to get back to a get to bed early pattern, because when we get to bed by 10 or 10:30, there's certain hormonal functions that take place that don't take place if we're awake. And this is allowing me to feel that experientially. And it's not necessarily a good feeling. So I'm trying to work my way back into getting to bed earlier.
All right. Well, then I will let you do that. But thank you again. I so appreciate your time. And I look forward to talking with you more in the future.
Thank you, Carrie. It's lovely being with you and everybody that's listening.
Wow, that was a very interesting conversation. I didn't know what to expect or what we were going to hear, but I'm so glad and grateful for that conversation. Timothy is clearly a wise man and somebody to listen to and learn from. So I will share his information below in the comments, and I hope that you reach out to him with any questions or comments or things that you would like to know more about. And until next time, remember that I believe in you and you can manifest the life of your dreams.